Hey, Taylor Elwood here, and welcome to today's topic, which is how to deal with someone else's anger. Now, when you think about emotions and men, the stereotypical emotion that's associated with men is anger. Men are angry, and that's the emotion that men are typically told that they are allowed to feel. That's the safe emotion that men are allowed to feel. Fear, sadness, anxiety, these are not safe emotions for men to feel, at least according to toxic masculinity. But anger is treated as an emotion that is safe to feel. And that's one of the things that I think is really kind of a challenge for men a lot of times, because even when a man does feel angry, the expression of that anger can be hard. But we're not going to talk about that today. What I want to talk about today is how to handle anger when it comes from someone else. So there's someone else in your life that's angry at you, because I don't think that men in general have been taught how to be present in the face of anger. And when someone else is angry with you, it can be a very terrifying experience. We are going to talk more about anger as it relates to men and their own experience of it in another video. But today, let's consider the experience of anger as it relates to being on the receiving end of it. Now, I'm someone who does not handle someone else's anger very well. When I have someone that's angry with me, I tend to freeze up in some cases, or I'll get very defensive and protective of myself. And this is something I'm really doing a lot of work on. One of the things that I've been doing is I've been doing a lot of work on grounding myself in the face of someone else's anger. Because I realized that when someone else is angry at me, they're expressing that anger because they are trying to connect with me. This is something that I learned from reading those books on conflict. Like, if someone's angry at you, they're trying to connect with you. They're angry because they're angry about something that's making them feel disconnected, and they're trying to connect with you. The way they're going about it may or may not be healthy. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of times the expression of anger is not always healthy. But let's talk first about let's talk first about how do we handle someone else's anger. The first thing we need to realize is that we can't actually handle someone else's anger for them, and we can't fix their anger. A lot of times what I see men do, and I've been guilty of this myself, is that we'll rush in and try to fix a situation. And one of the reasons we're doing it is because we're trying to avoid having someone be angry at us. Because if someone's angry at us, we're in the doghouse. We're in trouble. No sex tonight, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's kind of the thought and experience that goes through a man's head. And what the man doesn't realize is that this anger is a bid for his attention, for him to become fully present. But in the face of that anger, he's like, how do I handle this? What do I do to control this person so that they're not angry at me anymore? This is what nice guy behavior is about. Nice guy behavior, that the person will end up complying with what the person wants in the hope that they won't be angry. And the fact of the matter is, that person usually stays angry. If anything, that anger kind of leads to disrespect. And I've had this experience firsthand, where I'll do something that the person wants. They're angry with me in the moment. And in the moment, it seems to help the situation, but it doesn't actually help it in the long run. I've been that guy. What I've learned is that it is better to take a deep breath, ground in your body, and listen with intention and awareness. What is it that you're angry about? What are you feeling? Okay. Get them to locate what they're feeling. Can you tell me where in your body that feeling of anger is? Okay. All right. And when you can do that, you start to basically show that you're curious about their anger, and that you really want to know and understand what's going on. You're grounding yourself. I recommend taking deep breaths. You want to take those deep breaths so that you can help yourself stay calm and focused, so you don't lose it in the face of that anger. Because a lot of times when people are angry, they are going to express themselves in a way that is unhealthy, or it'll feel that way to you. Now, let me be clear that anger can be a very healthy emotion. It's just a question of how it's expressed. For example, I had someone who, when they got angry at me, they broke a statue of mine. That was not healthy. That was abusive. They essentially were taking out their anger on something that was mine, and in the process showing me that they were willing to do physical harm to me. Even though they did physical harm to an object of mine, they could have been just as willing to do that physical harm to me. That's unhealthy anger. And we don't want that kind of expression of anger. So that's abusive anger right there. Abusive anger can also be someone who is being hypercritical and contemptuous of you. Being sarcastic, saying things that's harsh and angry in a way that they're trying to take you down. Or someone who's like saying, like, you never do enough, or you blah, 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 blah. When we're using you, we're directing everything outward. We're not actually, like, with that expression of anger, we're putting it on the other person, and we are going to get their defenses up as a result. That's unhealthy anger. That can be abusive anger. So if you have someone yelling at you and telling you that you're a disappointment, for example, or telling you that, you never do things the way that I want you to do them, what that's really doing is it's setting the stage for a disconnect. They're angry, they want to connect, but they're going about it the wrong way. Now, you might say to them, well, I watched this video and that's not how you do it. Well, don't do that. Okay. What I would suggest doing is instead saying, I'm setting a boundary here. The way that you're talking to me is inappropriate. The way you're acting is inappropriate. And I'm going to go for a walk. And when I get back, we can talk. And I would like to talk with you so we can figure out what's going on. And I'd like to stay calm and reassured and assured, because what I want in my life is for you to be careful with me and to treat me with respect and love. And I want to do the same for you. So basically setting some boundaries. And if someone does something that is clearly abusive, like breaking a statue, that's where you basically say, look, this relationship's over. Or this situation is over. Like, I'm not going to keep someone in my life who is going to do physical harm to me or to my things. Because if you're willing to do physical harm to my things, you're probably willing to do physical harm to me. And I don't trust that at that point. I'm afraid. And it's okay to say that. That's you setting boundaries. That's you establishing a very clear and present space where you're saying, I am not going to accept abusive behavior. I'm going to remove myself from this space, and I'm going to take care of myself. And I am not going to tolerate or allow this kind of behavior in my life. So that's abusive anger. And we don't want that kind of anger in our lives. We don't want unhealthy anger in our lives, because unhealthy anger is bad anger. Unhealthy anger is dangerous anger. Unhealthy anger is the kind of anger that can set the stage for something truly bad to happen. We want healthy anger. Healthy anger is someone expressing, I feel disconnected from you when you don't do the dishes. Or I feel unhappy and sad because something isn't happening here, or something like that. And that person might, say it and might raise their voice when they say it. And that's okay. It's if they're doing something and they're throwing personal insults. If they're saying, like, fuck off, name a person, that's abusive. And you don't need to tolerate that kind of anger in your life. In fact, I recommend that you don't. That's where you have to grow a spine and say, I'm not going to accept this kind of experience of anger. I'm going to say, no, that's not acceptable. I care about you and I love you, but I'm not willing to accept that kind of behavior. And if this continues, we're going to have to transition into some other kind of relationship. Abusive anger is really any kind of anger where it is a threat towards you or a threat towards your person in one form or another, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And that's something you don't need to put up with. You don't need to tolerate that or allow it. What you want to do is allow yourself to be honest and present with yourself and what you feel, and allow them to be present with what they're feeling. Make space for them. Hear them out. Say, I hear what I'm hearing you say is X, Y, and Z. Is that correct? Okay. I hear that. I acknowledge that. And then you can kind of start to build a dialogue around that to help you to help you start to diffuse that anger. You're not trying to control that anger though. You're just there and you're present and you're listening and you're showing that you understand. And you're not trying to fix it. You have to wait to fix it. One of the things that I would suggest is when the person is finished stating everything they need to state, I would say, okay, now that you've expressed all of that to me, I'm going to ask for a little bit of time and I'm going to get back to you when I've had time to process this. And I'll share with you my own thoughts and feelings around it. And by doing that, you're giving yourself a bit of space. And at the same time, you are setting the stage for that person and you to have a better conversation, because you could react in the moment. It's really easy to react in the moment, but it's not helpful. The other thing that I always recommend is take a look at some of the resources that are out there around conflict. A lot of people think that the key to solving conflict is more communication, and I don't think it's that. I think it's targeted communication. Less is actually more. And this is why taking the time to listen to the person, hear them out, and then giving yourself a bit of space to process, have your own reaction away from the other person, and then come back and respond to that person can be really powerful and effective. So I hope that this has been helpful to you. And what I would really recommend is just be present with yourself as best you can. There's a party that might be triggered by someone else's anger. And if you are, that's an opportunity to recognize that you have a wound in your body, that you have triggers there that need to be healed. And those triggers are calling for you to get healed. That person may be triggering you. That's not necessarily their intent. And so what you want to do is allow for the fact that that's the space that they're in, and also give yourself the opportunity to be fully present with them, and then go and have your reaction somewhere else. Maybe talk with another man. You can certainly reach out to me if you need that help. But reach out to another man and connect and say, this is what's going on. And then go from there with your work. So thank you for watching, and I hope that this is helpful for you. Remember that anger in and of itself is not a negative emotion. It is just an emotion that is indicating something to you, something that needs to be addressed and resolved.